I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode.
There we go.
This one. All right, here we go. Let's flip this so I don't make paper sounds. Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show today. I'm so excited for my guests. We're going to jump down rabbit holes. We're going to talk a lot about different things. So grab your pen and your notebook. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here and can't wait to see all those rabbit holes we jump down.
So to give us a little bit of history on, sort of who you are and a little bit of how you got to where you are today.
Well, if you look at my bio, it says I'm a high school dropout who made good. And that's really what I mean, that's the basis for the story. My parents had a limited expectation of me, and I lived up to every little bit of it. And I realized after 9 years as an electrician that I wasn't satisfied. I didn't have enough, and I wanted to look at what else I could do, and ended up going into real estate, made a bunch of money, lost it all, and suffered through the last financial crisis, rebuilt everything. And then I had an eye towards diversification. I didn't want to get stuck again with just one source of income. So I looked at diversifying and looked at online business and built the business I'm currently running now, the podcast factory. And so I have 2 businesses that are successful and 2 more that are sitting there just gnawing at me. But that's the life of the entrepreneur, isn't it?
Well, and I love your story because I resonate with it, for one, because I never graduated from high school, but I do have a university degree, and figured that throughout my career in corporate world that, the university degree would trump it. But found out that I lost a lot of jobs because I didn't have, in the government, I lost a lot of jobs because I didn't have a high school diploma. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. So for you, like for me, what I struggled with in school was, it was too slow of a pace for me, and I got really, really bored. And then I also had the attitude of like, why do I need to learn this? I'm never going to use this. What was it like for you?
When we have a child now, and he's got some deficiencies, and we've got an occupational therapist, we've got a speech therapist, we've got the teachers chipping in, we're chipping in. I didn't have that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were both working hard all day long. Like, it blows my mind to think about this right now. My kid is about to be 9 years old, and I can't even leave him in the bathroom by himself because he just starts playing and doesn't do what he's supposed to do. I was staying alone at that age, so I didn't have that big support system. And so looking at it from my lens today as a dad and as someone who cares, I think that I probably had maybe I had a couple learning deficiencies that were undiagnosed. Maybe I had some ADHD. I don't know what it was, but all I know was that it wasn't for me. And so my earliest my earliest memories are like 3rd grade, not doing homework, getting in trouble, but my parents were too busy working to care. And so I think that it was really not having the right team around me, not having the right structure, and like you said, not seeing how this fit into the big picture. Maybe if they would have put me into something like Montessori school, I might have done better because it would have engaged the other side of my brain. But I wasn't in the right place.
Yeah. And I think it's so true because even, when you're talking about your son, my son is 16, but I even think of like as a kid, I don't think half of the time my mom really knew what we were doing because we would leave the house first thing in the morning and we came back when the lights turned on. Like, I mean, we went far too. Like we just, took our bikes and like, went a couple of miles and like built houses and trees and forests and, all that kind of other stuff. And I think, my son just didn't have that joy, I guess, or that uninhibited adventure spirit.
It's so strange that you bring this up. And I think all of us are starting to think back of the times where we were kids and it was sun up to sundown, get out of the house. We weren't tethered to a computer or a screen. Just get out of the house. You're going to drive us nuts otherwise. But I mean, I feel like kids are missing out on that. Like you said, that adventure. We used to go out. We used to play with all our friends. I lived in New York, in Brooklyn, New York. I mean, we'd travel 20, 30 blocks. We'd be friends with kids all over other neighborhoods, bicycles, all by ourselves. I used to walk to school. None of that. None of that. My kid has none of that. He's got a sheltered life. He goes from right here with us into the car with us, into the school with them. And I think that kids, I didn't know we were going to get into this, by the way.
Neither did I.
I think this is the problem. And I'm seeing it right now. And we're seeing the results of this in several of our friends' companies. They have these young people who are joining the workforce. And I just heard the weirdest story of this assistant who is at work at an office. The phone is ringing and he asks his boss, hey, what should I do? You think I should answer that? Dude, come on, just think for yourself, think for a solution. And I think that's what we have shorted these kids on. And I think that's what you and I had, because we had all that time to kind of figure out what we were doing, who we were, and make some decisions on our own, good or bad.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, in that situation, I kind of, take a step back and go, but to them, like to us answering the phone, like you just went to see who it was. Like somebody knocked on the door, you went to the door to see who it was. You were like, visitors, right? But they really were raised in a thing where you were like, who the hell is coming out? Why is this person here now? Right? Like, and I find I'm even guilty of doing it, too. And those things that we think are like answering the phone is it's a business place, pick up the phone. But they're like, hello, like it's just obscure to them. But it's interesting. And I find it more interesting to watch in the workforce. And as my son, like at 14, he was like, I want a job. I want to make my own money. Like I'm moving out right when I'm 18. And, he had all of those sort of things. I was really worried about that as a parent because I thought, like, is he going to be a dud? Like, is he going to be any good at this? And he was working with my husband, not for him, but in the same industry and at the same company. And I thought, this might not reflect really good, but there was a glimmer of hope because I would constantly get compliments. People be like, your son is so great. Like he cleans up without being asked. And, he always says his please and thank yous. And he's so polite. And I was like, no, I'm Owen's mom. Because I was like, he doesn't do, like, why doesn't he do this at home? He's great. He cleans the work washrooms and never a complaint. And I'm like, what? That's not what happens at home. So I have a little bit of hope that maybe some of those seeds sunk in and started to grow.
I think that's the advantage that kids with parents like us who actually can be there, because we're running businesses. We have a little bit more flexibility. I think today we're more involved than our parents were, or at least I know for sure that we are, because I know my parents didn't do any homework with me, and I get a lot of homework now, more than I did as a kid. I'm being punished. But I think that's the advantage to kids with parents who care and can be there, is that the seeds of virtue are planted. Now, we don't know when they are going to sprout up, but you're seeing it in him being out in the world and getting the compliments. And you say, well, okay, Yeah, I remember teaching him that. I don't know who uses it at home, but hey, thank God it's sprouting.
Yeah. And so, you were talking about how like your parents worked all of the time. I'm assuming they weren't entrepreneurs themselves.
No, no, they were
So
working class.
yeah, and I was the same thing. Like my mom worked in the government. My father and my stepfather were both military men. It was one or the other. That's kind of where you went. So when you think back, what, was it fearful for you to kind of think, yeah, I'm going to do this for myself? Was that like an easy transition, or did it even cross your mind? You were just like, well, I'm just going to start my own business.
It wasn't quite that simple. It was being shaken into reality of how I was living. Because, like I told you, my parents didn't have high hopes for me. They told me to get a trade. That's exactly what I did. Right out of high school, I became an electrician's apprentice, went to work on a job site, complete green newbie out there doing what I was told to do. Hey, you get a journeyman, the journeyman teaches you things, and you pick up skills, and as you pick up skills you get paid more. And I did all of that, and I did as I was told. And thing was, I had an ambition in me, and this clearly didn't happen in school, but when I got out there in the real world, I had an ambition, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to be better. I wanted to get better at my job. I wanted to be more productive. And so I would learn. And this is what my journeyman loved, was he would teach me something. And even if it didn't make sense to me, it would stay in my brain. And maybe a month later, I'd be like, oh, this is what you meant by this, and put all the pieces together. But I was constantly trying to learn, was constantly trying to advance. And the thing was that because of that, I got promotions, and I went from a peon to just slightly better than a peon, and kept moving on till I was a foreman. I was running the crew. And that's when it hit me. This is like, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years in. And I look around and I'm running guys older than me. And I'm thinking, gee whiz, like this guy's old enough to be my granddad, and I'm telling him what to do. Like, what else is there? And this is one of the things I'm realizing now, is like what separates the people who live lives of quiet desperation from the people who live limitless possibilities. It's how we talk to ourselves. And most people in that situation might say, hey, this is it. I got
Yeah.
it.
I
I'm
made
running the
it. Look at
crew. Yeah, I
me.
got it.
Yeah, look
I'm
at
running the
me
crew.
dealing with people
Exactly.
who are older than me.
This is it. And I guess you could celebrate that. And then there's people like us who flip that. Same words, but it's a question. Is this it? And I had to ask myself, is this it? Is this my contribution? I'm not even 30. Is this it? Is this all I'm going to do in this world? It wasn't. It wasn't what I was going to do. It wasn't what I was meant for. I prayed on it. I asked for answers. I asked for guidance. And I also got a real wake up call when my mom died early. All right, let me breathe here. My mom took her own life. Okay. And it was quite unexpected. 52 years old. People used to call her the smiling lady. She was always so happy. And I didn't know that she had this problem, right? I didn't know that she had a mental problem or depression or anything like that my whole life. And one of the last things that she said to me when I went and saw her in the hospital that morning, I'm like, Mom, why would you do this? What's going on, Mom? And she starts mumbling something about work. I'm like, really? Like work? Work? And that's when I started questioning everything. I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I know I have more to do. And I know I'm not going to end up like that, miserable because of work. So is this it? No, I have to find something else.
Man, we were put in each other's path for some reason, and I can't wait to figure it out. Because it's uncanny. My sort of one of my aha moments is my sister committed suicide and lived a life of luxury and what I thought perfection. She owned a company. She was very happy. She had the house of her dreams. She had her pot-bellied pig Harley and all of her dogs, and same thing, was always smiling and happy. And she called me one day and said, like, hey, I miss you. I really want to talk to you. I had the flu. And I said, I just can't right now. I don't have the capacity. I was thinking about work and how far behind I was. I had my own company at this time. And then she was gone the next day. And that really sort of made me stop and go, what does it mean to have everything you want? And so I started questioning myself on, you know, uh, does everything I want need to be what I think the world perceives it as? Or if I'm happy and living, in a trailer, with a few possessions, but I'm good, I'm smiling and I feel good inside and I feel good when I'm alone, is that good enough? And it was sort of that, you have those pivotal moments, I think, in your life where you can sort of look at it and go, what do I need to see in myself in this situation? My mom was a big person for that. If you're seeing something and you're like upset about it, what is it reflecting on you? And that was a big moment for me to kind of stop and see the world, like take the rose-colored glasses off almost and go, I want to be better than this. I don't want to get to that point. I don't want to fake it anymore. I don't want to smile and pretend like everything's okay when everything's not okay.
Man, and like we're living in a time where it seems like that is prevalent,
Yeah.
and it's a thing where I look at it this way, and this is what another one of those things that separates people who live those lives that they want to live is when you reach that moment and that crossroad, and then you start figuring out. For me, it could go either way. It was going to go, God, why did you do this? Like, and be mad and wonder why she did it. Like, I don't know why she did it. She was nuts. And I feel bad for her. And it makes me sad. It's been 20 years now, and I still get a little choked up about it. Or the other option B, God, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to teach me? What am I to learn from this? And so I'm the option B guy in these situations. Is every time I hit one of these rough spots, I'm going to call it, to put it mildly, is all right, you're trying to tell me something, sir. Let me sit here, pray, and think, what are you trying to tell me? Because obviously you got my attention.
Yeah. And I think that in my own life too, like if I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? As soon as I hear myself say that, I stop and I go, okay, I'm not learning a lesson. And I do not want to keep learning this. So what, and I think that's, I used to hate that before. And now it's such a pivotal thing for me that I realize when bad stuff happens to me, I now don't go, why does bad stuff keep happening to me? Like, oh, I never have any luck. I go, okay, this is a moment. This is now change is coming. But before that change, I got to figure out what this lesson is. There's something here. There's a teachable moment in this bad case scenario. And I don't want it to be bad forever. So I got to figure something else out.
You gotta own it. You gotta own it, and big things and small things. I can tell you a little one right now that I think all our listeners could resonate with. I don't like driving in traffic. This is part of why I created my own business. Okay, is I don't want to drive in traffic, and yet I have to drive my son to school in the morning, and it seems like more and more these people on the road are honking at me and cutting me off. And the last 2 days in a row, this one spot where I have to wait to get into this main road, people just laying on the horn on me, and I'm like, well, there's no way in, and I just want to get out and I want to Hulk smash the car, right?
Yeah.
that's that's how I feel.
Just
But
pick it
then
up
it's
and
like,
throw it like a couple
yeah,
thousand
like
yards, right?
fling it. But my new thing is, and this is something I picked up reading little kids Bible with my son, is these are all God's creatures, and we were all created in his image. That's a little God back there. Little God must be having a bad day. And I keep telling me, just keep telling him, but it's like I have the option to either just get enraged every morning at these people honking at me, or go nuts and do a road rage incident, or say, this is God's creature. I love this creature. but I don't. But
Yeah.
I'm trying.
But it's that moment where you kind of make a decision, like either I'm going to let this honking piss me off, or I'm just going to be like, you know what, sweetie, if you need to let that honking go, if that is going to make you feel better, give it to me. Like I'll take it. It'll be okay. And I always think of this one lady. I was in such a bad mood. I just felt like nothing was going right in the day. Spilled the coffee, left my briefcase on the top of the car. Like it was just at one thing after the other. And I was like, forget it. I'm ending the day. I'm going home. And I was pissed. And I remember my hands were like, I was white knuckling the wheel, like just nobody get in my way. Like you said, I was ready to like, just like somebody get in my way so I can like release this. And I stopped at a light and I was waiting to turn left. And this woman pulled up beside me and I looked over and she was like kind of smiling. And I was like, what's she smiling about? Like, cause I mean, everybody's supposed to be miserable when I'm miserable, right? And she started like dancing in the car and she was like rocking out and she was like having a good time and she was singing. And I started laughing and I thought she had no idea that moment. And I'm sure she's like living her life now and has no idea how much that little moment of her just dancing in her car impacted me, that I went, I want to be like that. Like, and it's just a simple choice of me turning on the radio and just dancing until I get out of it, right? It's funny how these little tiny moments in our life can be so pivotal. We change the total direction of somebody's life by something so simple, but we forget that.
It's a beautiful thing. It can work either way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Either way. You could be the honking person that passes it on. So now, so you've started your own business, you're kind of moving on that path. When did, like, when you were like, you know what, I really want to diversify. I know you had talked a little bit about like the economic climate and you were kind of like, something's got to change with this. I can't be stuck on one thing. So talk to us a little bit about that part of your.
There's two layers because I think it's important that we talk about both. And the first thing was I was all in on real estate. I did because I didn't know any other way to escape. And that's the kind of the ripcord that anybody can pull. You can get into real estate. And that's what I did. I got into real estate. I got my real estate license, started investing and buying rentals and flipping houses and all that. That's how people get rich is what I understood. So I'm in. Count me in.
Yeah,
I want
own property. We hear it all the time.
So I'm doing that, and then we get caught in the '08 downturn where we were buying houses, flipping them, and they'd sell in 15 to 20 days, and all of a sudden I've got 1, 2, 3 projects, 4 projects sitting, not selling. Uh-oh, we got caught. Lost everything. We lost everything. I lost my house. Dad lost his house. We lost all the investment properties. And I went into like a 2-year funk after that. That little demon hanging on my shoulder telling me, you're not good enough. See, you shouldn't have done that. See, go back and get a job. You weren't supposed to be doing that. Who do you think you are? And I got into a deep, dark funk with that, but I couldn't let it go. I couldn't go back. And I thought, all right, I got to rebuild this thing. I'm going to rebuild it. But while I'm rebuilding, I'm going to look for something else to do in tandem so that if one goes, the other one keeps going. And this is, I mean, multiple streams of income. We hear it all the time. And that's what I was looking at. Well, I'll rebuild this and make it work, which we did. And it's still working today. And then I started building an online business, an internet-based business to have another cash flow, another way to make money. And the cool part was that the skills complemented each other, and things I learned online, I transferred to my real estate business, and it's improved everything that we do. And so I was looking at the diversification play as a safety play. Now, here's the thing, and this is what I want to draw, put some light on, is I think that a lot of us, and this is where we started the conversation, a lot of us hear this multiple streams of income and we think we need to have 36 different businesses. And that's the mistake I made last year. So this is a recent mistake was, okay, I got these 2 humming along. They're both going. Now I'm going to add 2 more. Dumb.
It's never just
dumb.
one, right?
Yeah, I'm going to add
we multiply what we have, not
so
just add 1. I got 6. Let's do 12.
Yeah, and that was a big mistake I made. I call my wife Cupcake, so that's a big mistake Cupcake and I made last year. And thinking of that diversification as, hey, let's add more businesses because we've got an e-com and a media company that are sucking time and money but not producing. And then it's like, I don't know, I don't know if those were a good choice or not. And so what I would say is, when you have something working, a better diversification play is to look inside whatever's already working and see how much diversification you can get out of that. And so, for instance, what we're doing at the apartments with our rentals, we're looking at, okay, well, we can raise rent. That there's more money. We have some storage closets that used to come with a unit. We can split them off, sell those, or rent those separately. We're looking at our marketing system that we've created that's been working since 2012, almost untouched, almost 2.4 million in rental income from one Google ad, one video, and one set of emails. And we're like, well, maybe we can sell that system or consult on that system. So what are the plays that we can make inside what we're already doing is an actual better diversification play than looking at different businesses.
Well, and I love this because I think that's the trap that people get stuck in, right? Like we hear all the time, you want to make money, own real estate. Like, I hear that all the time. And I did it. And let me tell you, I am not a person who should have renters. So I got rid of that because I'm like, that just does not work for me. Because I know the path that I need to take. But I love what you're saying. And I think this is such a key thing for people who are listening is that's just it. You don't have to reinvent another wheel. And I think that people do that. They constantly feel like they have to have something completely different, something completely new, something that's unrelated, not realizing that, you know, the easiest thing and the best thing is to look at what you have and kind of figure out, like you said. And I love that you gave an actual example for that. What do you already have that you don't have to reinvent any wheels? You can just kind of go, hey, I can show you how to do this.
Yeah, it was, and even we're looking at it, and it's because, let's be straight, I am not smart. All right, I get work done, I do what I have to do, but I look for smarter people than me for mentorship, for coaching, for masterminds, and so we started working with a new mentor this year, and that's what he told me. He told me, "Oh, you fell into the MSI lie." MSI lie, multiple streams of income lie. Which two businesses are you going to get rid of? Which two are you going to keep? So he's asking me to shut down two businesses that I invested in, and it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow. But then we're looking at the ones we already have, and even at the podcast factory, we looked at it. We only had two things that we offered, and then we're like, well, wait a second. What if we did certifications? What if we just pieced out our show notes? What if we did in-person packages? We started looking at the same thing that we were already doing and pulling out more opportunities. I think more of that in your business is actually the way to make it not just sustainable and scalable, but to help you grow, is look at those opportunities that you have right in front of you that you can pull right out, make more money, and it doesn't actually take any more of your effort or time because it's inside of your wheelhouse.
Well, and I think, you know, in this day and age, we hear it all the time, right? Like time is a luxury, is what people are feeling. So it's sort of, I think there's a lot of people that are out there that are feeling like they're in that catch 22, right? I need something else, but something else is going to require me more time, more money, more stress. So I love this idea of actually looking inside, and I do this quite often too, because you get stuck. Like, I mean, I have a company that kind of runs itself, and it's like my little cash cow, I call it. But, you know, I had to sit a couple of years ago and go, how can I, like, what am I going to do with this? Do I want to just like let it go and let somebody else grow it? Can I, you know, do something else within this to make it better? And when I did that, I realized, man, I can make more money with not a lot of more effort. What took me so long to figure this out?
We're programmed that we need to work harder. I mean, at least I was. It was hours for dollars. And we have to untether ourselves from that concept of hours for dollars. And we have to start looking at results. What are the results? What are the outcomes people want? How many different ways can we deliver those outcomes? And yeah, of course, we're going to feel bad like, oh my gosh, I'm working less and I'm making more money. I'm not supposed to. sit on it for a little while and you'll get over it. I promise.
Yeah. It's true though, right? Like after a couple of weeks, you're like, actually, how can I do more of
Yeah.
this? And I remember hearing a quote once, I think it was like from Steve Jobs or whatever, but he was like, if you want to know the quickest way to get a job done, give it to the laziest person on the team. And I was like, I don't really want to try this because I'm really curious. And so I did that. And I remember, I mean, there was 32 of us on the team at the time, and they were like, why are you giving this to Jack? Like, he doesn't do anything. And sure enough, I gave the project to him, and I was like, we've been spending so much time doing this one thing because we've always done it this way. And now all of a sudden he was just like, no, just do this. It's super easy. It's like, this is friggin' brilliant, right? But we get stuck in our, like we were saying before, we get stuck sometimes in our own mindset and not realizing that there are other people out there who have been through it or who just think differently, that we need to go to. And I love also what you said about like coaching, of finding somebody who is at the point where you want to be at and learn from them, but also not be afraid to move on. Because I find a lot of people, even my own clients that coach with me, I will often have to say to them, it's time for you to move on now. It's time for you to find somebody else. And they're like, what? That does not make any sense at all. Like, you're throwing money away. But I'm like, it's time. Like, you're 18, move out, pack
Yeah.
your bags. You need to move on to something else. You need to grow elsewhere.
I think that's part of the we all get, I mean, it's hard, right? Because you get this attachment and this friendship, but I look at it the same way. I mean, we do the podcast work, and eventually some of the firms that we work with get so big that they need to take it in house because they're trying to do 10 or 20 shows a week and all that. And we're just like, hey, congratulations. That ain't us, and we're not going to work for you like that. So move on. And I think that, to me, that's a sign of a good coach, because I've always found it really odd. And I don't know if this is just me, but if I hear that somebody's had a coaching relationship for like 20 years, I'm like, really? Like, at some point, one of you has to move on or outgrow the other, or move it. Maybe you turn into partners or something, or grow into something different. But having that same coaching relationship, to me, maybe it's just therapy. I don't know what it is, but I think, like, even now, I'm in a mastermind right now that I thought I would never outgrow. I'm in year 3, and I've invested quite heavily into this mastermind, and I'm feeling it now. I'm just feeling like, hey, I got so much. I learned so much. It's been incredibly valuable, and the relationships I will take are for a lifetime. But is this it? That's what I'm asking. Is
That
this it?
question, right? Is this it? And I think, this is good for people to hear, because I think they need to be able to give themselves permission to go, like, the biggest compliment I can ever get when I am doing coaching or consulting is somebody to say, like, I think I've learned all I can learn from you. I'm like, 100% yes. Like, it's so exciting. Like, I celebrate it and I send them a gift and I'm like, this is amazing. And they're like, really? Because I'm not. And I'm like, it's not about the money. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to make you grow. And I made you grow as much as I can. That's amazing. I couldn't ask for anything better. But there is always that fear of, like, I've invested a lot in this person. I feel bad. They put kind of maybe their own money story onto it. So I think we need to give ourselves permission and celebrate the fact that, hey, you outgrew this mastermind. That's amazing. That means there was growth there.
Yeah, man, such a great way to look at it too. I think if you follow Dan Sullivan's work, The Gap and the Gain, as entrepreneurs, we are constantly chasing our goals, and the goals that we set are like the horizon. They're constantly moving away from us, so we'll never actually capture them, and that's okay. What we forget to do, and the reason why most entrepreneurs get burnt out, is because they don't stop for a second and look back to see how far they come. And just like you said, hey, if I'm in year 3 and I feel like I outgrew this, I remember in year 1, I was like, I'll never outgrow this. And now I'm like, hey, I'm in a different place, and that's okay. That's why I did this.
Yeah. And I think too, like, it's also the celebration of stuff. Like, we have a thing that at the end of every day, everybody has to send me something that they're happy or proud of or that made them smile or whatever. And I just collect them. And then right around Christmas, I'm like, hey guys. And some of them are fantastic and like life changing. And sometimes they're like, I got to eat a piece of cake in quiet today. Like, they're small to big, but I'm like, we celebrate them all because you also forget, right? Like, you forget sometimes, like, in the moment, you're like, I can't believe I did this. This is amazing. And then you're on to the next thing. So I like sort of having that list so I can go back and go, gosh, I totally forgot how amazing that was. Because life moves so fast and we forget to kind of stop and go, wow, I did a lot this year.
Yeah, I think that makes a perfect case for anyone who's listening who's not journaling to start journaling and start putting those wins and start putting that gratitude and to be able to look back. One of my favorite things to do is each quarter as I start a new journal is I'll go back 1, 2, 3, 4 years, look at all my journals and start looking at my thinking from back then. And some of it was great, some of it was not so great. That I find some of those mistakes that I keep butting my head. Oh, why'd I do that again? Gee whiz. And so I think that's a perfect case for documenting, collecting, and then reviewing the good things, the bad things, and what you can do differently.
Well, and I think too, looking back and realizing that it's okay to change. Like, I remember I was talking to my mom about how much I've changed and like what I want to be when I grow up. Like, anytime somebody's like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I don't know, haven't gotten there yet. Not grown up yet. I'll let you know. But I realized that some of my dreams have been like huge. Like, but my mom was like, even when you were 4, like, she's like, I remember your brother wanted to be like an astronaut and a lawyer. And I was like, what did I want to be? Like, I don't remember. She's like, cashier, sweetheart. You wanted to be a cashier. Like, you made me buy you a little tiny play cashier. Like, you were so happy at that. And I thought about that and I thought in my head, I was like, well, that's kind of like a stupid dream. Like, I could have like wished a little bit bigger there. But I realized, like, you know how everybody always complains about self-checkout, that they're like, I hate self-checkout, blah, blah. I'm in my glory. I get to play my
At
childhood
last.
dream. I'm like, ding, ding. Like, this is so fun, right? But what it also did, and my dad put this in perspective of me, is like, sometimes we don't realize that our small little goals that we had maybe can become something bigger. Because he said to me, you need to try everything that you want to try, because let's say worst case scenario, everything goes to crap, you lose it all. And all of a sudden you have to like get a job working at Walmart as a cashier. You're still living a dream. And I was like, damn
Nice.
it. Now I can't give up and not
Nice.
try. But it's true. We have to remember that no matter what we're doing in life, we can choose to make it successful, whether that's being a cashier or owning a multi-million-dollar company. It's all in mindset.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier and people with their facades of their happiness, because I did air quotes. I know we're not doing video, so you guys listening. uh, Happiness and success, what success looks like by other people's standards. But what we have to figure out is what our standard of happiness is, what our vision of success is, and what makes us happy. And to me, it's hanging out with my family and not working till 11 a.m. in the morning. That's one of the things. And I live that right now. And I will take it for granted most days. But then I think back on times like right now and I'm like, well, I know other families are out there hitting it, getting it every day, 5 days a week. And at least for us, it's only 3 days a week. We have to take them to school. The rest of the time is mornings with the family, exercise, faith, all the kind of things that fill us up before we get to work. And is that not success? It doesn't matter what the money is. Am I not living the way I want to live? And I think most people don't know how they want to live. So that's why they have these outside standards of what happiness and success should look like. And I think that's a call to all of you to kind of figure out what matters to you. Maybe it's being a cashier. Maybe it's, the morning with the family and eating some eggs and bacon. I don't know what it is, but we all need to figure out what matters to us and give ourselves permission to have it and enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So talk to us a little bit about, if there, because I know there's somebody who's probably sitting there who's been connecting with your stories just as I have out there. So shameless plug time. Talk to us about all the projects that you got going and ways that people can find you to connect with you more, to just absorb more of all that you have to offer.
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to my overarching mission to the work I do, and it's quite simply the right words from the right person at the right time can change a life. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're having these conversations that are bringing light to people's lives, and that's what my whole purpose is, and that's what my company is. The Podcast Factory. We help experts get their message into the right ears so that they can help bring light to people and enlighten them and inspire them and help them to do bigger and greater things. And so my work is over at the Podcast Factory. That's where you can find work stuff. My show is called resultsleader.fm, and that's where I'm interviewing experts on how they're getting results for their clients and eating my own dog food. I actually have a podcast.
But it's joyful, right? It's like, it's the best thing I ever did, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's more than work for me. It's a mission, and my mission, man, put me here for one reason, and it's to have these conversations that we're having and to help people find light wherever they can, because the light erases the darkness, and that's really what I'm doing every single day.
Well, thank you so much for being the light of this episode, because I think there was just so much in this. And I really do appreciate your time, and I appreciate you coming and being so open with all of your stories, because I think when we share more of our stories, we just help more people to realize that your story matters and it's important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. And you guys listening out there, if you guys liked any of this, go over to the iTunes, give us a rating and review. Like, tell us that you enjoyed the episode.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sometimes the questions you weren't expecting to ask are definitely the ones that get you to the best conversations, stories, and sharing. This was definitely the case with Jonathan. I want to thank him so much for taking time, for being so open on his life journey and just figuring out the lessons that he's had, as well as talking to us about some different ways that you can diversify. Definitely go back and listen to that part again, because, we hear it all the time. Like he had mentioned about, various streams of income, and sometimes it's already sitting there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you want more information on where you can find and connect with Jonathan, visit our website at foxtalksbusiness.com. Click on blogs. You'll get all of the information that you can connect to him, as well as a special offer for listeners to be able to turn their failures into fuel for their next success. And you will get free access to his course creator tool. So all of the links are going to be there. So no matter what it is that you're doing today, make sure that you always take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?